everybody, and welcome to In My Mug, episode 253. It's the way I start, and you'll have to forgive me. On the 16th of September 2013, I am your host, Stephen Layton, and today, I'm not on my own. It's cool. I've got somebody else joining me. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Erwin Maresh. Did I pronounce that right?
That's close enough. I've been called worse.
Okay. From Finca Limoncillo and Finca Escondida and Mamma Mina and what's
San Jose?
San Jose and Milagros. Is it Milagros?
Milagros.
I've been calling it Milagros.
That's good.
Milagros. Okay, I need to change that.
That's a great cognate Spanish you got there.
They love my pronunciations. Honestly, these guys love it. So also the Serra Azul from Honduras from last year.
Right.
So this is awesome that Erwin has come to join us here. This is the first producer I've had in my mug studio. So we did one in 2009, 2008.
Yeah, it's one of the first ones.
Yeah,
it was in Antigua in Guatemala.
It was, and he was so that was my first producer on one. First coffee producer on an In My Mug, and now you're the first one in my studio, which is pretty awesome.
Oh,
so,
great.
So the coffee we're going to be talking about today is one of Erwin's coffees. Luckily enough, we're not going to talk about somebody else's coffee, and it's one that is I think is really interesting and fits into our focus on part. So it's time for us to focus on. So Limoncillo is a farm that we have a Pacamara from, we have a Caturra from, we have a Longberry from, which is the varietal that we're going to talk about here. And I love this story because it's on the website and it's in your words, so we actually copy and pasted what you said about how you came across this weird varietal, and a very weird varietal for Nicaragua. So if you can just tell the folks kind of how this Longberry varietal, kind of its background first of all, and then how you came across it on the farm.
Okay. Well, this Longberry is a coffee, obviously coming from Ethiopia, but what I found out, it comes in through Cameroon.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I was pronouncing
that was correct English pronunciation. You did well.
But it came into Central America the same way the geisha came into Central America as well. It was a study that was being done by Syrah of France on varietals to see what was the best varietals for each individual country in Central America, which was being done in the 80s, early 80s. They determined that obviously for Nicaragua and Guatemala, the Caturra was the best varietal, but obviously they determined these by the amount of yields they were getting from the coffee trees.
Well, I mean, at that time there wasn't really a specialty movement, was there?
Exactly.
It wasn't about taste; it was about how much you could get out of the land,
and the resistance to disease as well. Of course, for roya or rust, obviously in El Salvador it was the Bourbon. Rust wasn't a problem back then. So that was their main suggestion. For Costa Rica and Honduras, they came up with the Catimors.
Okay.
In Costa Rica it was the Catimors 90. In Honduras it was Icafe 90. That's what they were being called. They were the strains that were being developed in each one of these countries.
So Catimors, I mean, we talked about a Catimor last week on this Focus On part, and the Catimor kind of came around about 1968, but it was really the 80s where it kind of had that push through, wasn't it?
Exactly, yes.
From these studies. And a lot of these studies were funded from European countries, from...
this study was actually done by the French Agricultural Development Agency that they have, CIRAD. And they were basically trying to push to see which, the best varietals for each country.
Yeah. And did that involve planting lots of weird varietals that you just never try and plant, or did they go down the Bourbon, Caturra, Typica?
No. They actually, like I said, I mean, they brought in seeds, from the Longberry, which they call Java.
Yeah. Don't like the Java name.
Exactly.
No, I do get the Java pot, but I think the Longberry describes it much better, because if you look at the seed and look at the green bean, look at the roasted bean that you've got there, it's thin and long, and so distinctive to Ethiopia.
Exactly.
So, and one of the heirloom varietals as well, which kind of traces back to the very beginnings, isn't it, in its genealogy? It's,
right.
One of the first few.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so they did bring in, you know, the this longberry, which they call Java. They brought in the geisha, which was an Ethiopian coffee from the area of Kicha.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess we're good at this warping the names in Central America. So I guess that's where they get, you know, from Kicha, geisha.
Yeah.
I think that's where it kind of, you know, warps into.
But then you get stupid people like me coming along and warping it even more. So yeah.
But yeah, so they had several different varietals, and what they would do is they would start out gardens in different areas, different altitudes, you know, and but the recommendations were made specifically on disease resistancy and yield, you know, per varietal, you know. So it wasn't until the late '90s that we actually started, you know, looking at these varieties once again, you know, but based on cut profiles, you know, on taste. And, you know, for us specifically, our introduction to the longberry was all by mistake. You know, we were driving by this experiment station in Jinotega in Nicaragua, and this gentleman, this security guard, you know, pulled us over, which, you know, my dad kind of, you know, ordered me to stop, and I normally wouldn't have stopped, you know, having an armed guard, you know, pulling you over on the side of the road, and the dirt road.
And this is in the 90s in Nicaragua as well, which was a very different place to Nicaragua today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, but no, he told us that, you know, he had been laid off, and the experiment station, which is a government experiment station, didn't have the money to pay him his you know, his salary, his benefits. You know, so they gave him, you know, he had some tools, you know, some shovels and a wheel cart, and he had 5 kilos of this varietal that just said Java on it, you know, and he asked if we wanted to buy it. You know, my dad felt sorry for him. You know, he, you know, purchased everything he had off the guy.
That sounds pretty much like your dad. Like he's,
Exactly.
but I'm not surprised that the waving down as well, because your dad's kind of pretty well known, isn't he, around Jinotega and that area as well. He's a bit of a superstar around those parts.
Mostly in Matagalpa, you know.
Everywhere we went past, like people were like waving. It was like, oh. But yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, it's my dad's family. His great grandfather was one of the first coffee producers in the northern part of Nicaragua. You know, he came over from Germany to develop the railroad system, but you know, he got paid with land, and he brought seeds over from Bourbon seeds from Guatemala in the early 1900s. And planted.
So there's kind of a history of this kind of whole seed thing going on as well, and developing varietals that not everybody else would maybe be doing.
Right. Now with my father, you know, he loves to do all of his experiments big. You know, it's not like he will go in and plant a small area and to see how it goes. You know, and I'm always complaining to him about it, but he says, look, you know, in reality, I only have like 15 to 20 years left of life, so I want to see all these things that I'm trying out. You know. He's 68, but you know he's counting down already. You know,
I think he'll outdo us. He's like the way he springs around the farms when he gets there as well. He's like, you don't look 68.
No, exactly. No, he walks a lot. He can outwalk me. You know, every time. You know, I'm a horseback and he's walking. You know, but no. So then it was history. I mean, we tried the seed. You know, and
so like in the 90s, I'm guessing you kind of like what would you do with them? Did you just plant them straight away, or did you sit on them? Can you sit on them? I don't.
Okay. Well, no. The seeds, the older they get, the less percentage of them sprout.
Yeah.
You know, so when they're nice and fresh, let's say, you know, 3-4 months old, you know, if you plant them, you will get, you know, good 70 to 80% of them sprouting.
Okay.
You know, if you keep the humidity almost right, you know, around 20 to 30% humidity.
Okay.
Obviously, the longer you go, the more embryos will die.
Yeah.
You know, inside the coffee bean. You know, and
so you went straight back and planted these ones then, or?
Well, no, we within the next month and a half, you know, we put them, we set them aside, you know, and obviously we planted them as if we were planting regular Caturra, which was a mistake. You know, it was 4,000 plants per manzana. You know, there were for the size of the tree, which we didn't know how it was, you know, it was too dense. You know, so we had.
So it's a much bigger tree than the Caturra.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a
Because
teepee.
Caturra is kind of like a dwarf tree,
Short and
isn't it?
stout,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. But the Longberry is.
This was really tall.
Oh, okay.
You know, and each branch can come out to be almost 2 meters.
So very geisha-like in lots of ways then.
No, it's a
It's a
cousin
long
of
branch.
cousin of the geisha, I call it. You know, because even if you look at it, it's kind of like it looks
Yeah.
kind of the geisha. You know.
Yeah, no, the seeds definitely have that look about them.
Right.
Yeah, so they can
Right.
see they're related for sure.
Exactly. You know, so when we first had it, it was beautiful. We had beautiful looking trees, but no production because they were just too close together. You know, so we went in and we tore out every other tree.
Yeah.
You know, and give it more room. You know, and then it really produced, and we started learning how to manage it because if you don't know how to manage it, it has very low yield.
You're right.
You know, but we were talking about earlier, you know, what was our highest yield, you know, that we've had, and we had 60 quintales, which is about 40 bags per manzana, and it was on this longberry.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Oh, that's interesting. That's just through good husbandry, good management of it. And,
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you planted this varietal on Limoncillo, which is that the biggest of your farms in Nicaragua?
It's our second biggest farm.
Second biggest. So what's
Yes.
the biggest farm?
The biggest is Placeres.
Oh, okay.
You know, but Placeres, that one is.
I've not been to that one, have I?
I don't think you have.
No.
I don't think you have. That one, it's both a cattle and a coffee farm.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Okay.
We have there obviously less varietals.
Yeah.
You know, it's mostly Caturra. We have a little bit of, you know, yellow catuai. We tried a little bit of Catimor. It didn't work out very well. We have some Pacamaras there as well.
Okay.
You know, but very little. Mostly it's Caturra. You know, it's a coffee better suited for blends, for espresso blends. I mean, that's what a lot of
Okay.
people use the placentas for.
Right.
You know.
So you planted it on Limoncillo. You planted on
Limoncillo.
San Jose as well.
After we proved how great of a cup it was, after we discovered how great of a cup it was, you know, we decided to take it up to a higher altitude. You know, we first tried it at Mamma Mina, which is at 1,400 meters. But it's just like the geisha. It's not very good. It doesn't resist the wind very well.
Yeah.
You know, so the wind pretty much burnt it. You know,
It's also, I kind of found with the geisha, kind of sub 1,500 meters. The cut profile is very, very different to stuff that's grown further up and in very
Exactly.
close proximities.
Exactly.
So San Jose is up from Escondida. Is it?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
So Escondida is about 1,400 meters.
Right.
And then San Jose is around about 15, 16?
Yes.
50, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And if you planted this anywhere else?
We planted a little bit on Escondida. It hasn't started producing yet.
Okay.
You know, but we want to see what the different cut profiles are at. You know, the San Jose, as opposed to the Limoncillo of the Longberry, it's obviously has a lot more acidity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me the acidity is a little bit too intense. You know,
you were lucky enough. You let us try both of those ones and select which one that we preferred. And I definitely preferred the Limoncillo one because it was a more sweeter kind of cup to it. Although there was lots of these interesting tea-like qualities going on that again remind me very much of geisha. It was there was a natural sweetness there, which I guess comes from being at that slightly lower altitude.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I mean, so I think that was a fairly long but interesting focus on. So we're now going to talk about the coffee and talk about the farm. So Finca Limoncillo for me is one of the most important coffees we buy, and not just because you're here, by the way. I say that a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
But also because it kind of shows the development of us as a company. So I've known Erwin since 2005. He's the first coffee producer I ever met, which was pretty cool. But he also left me sitting at the airport in Matagalpa for about an hour on my own, and the first time I'd ever travelled anywhere. Do you remember this story?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So I'm sitting there on my suitcase, and I see this guy go past with Taza on a piece of paper, and I was thinking, that's got to be Cup of Excellence. So I just went, you looking for me? And you were like, yeah, you Steve. Oh God, I'm so sorry, man. I was like, I'm fine. I was just scared, petrified, thinking, where am I going? But yeah, so I met you at the Cup of Excellence in 2005, and you were managing the cupping room kind of thing, weren't you?
Right. No, I was actually the country coordinator for Cup of Excellence
Yeah.
in Nicaragua at that time.
And that was, I guess, because of your great grasp of English.
Right.
So
right.
educated. You went to school in Texas, didn't you?
Texas A&M, right.
So hence the slight accent of Texas, slight Nicaraguan accent, and different times he kind of slips into both. It's quite funny. I'm a fine one to talk about accents. So we met in 2005, and then I knew you grew coffee, but I didn't. You know, we talked on email a few times, and I knew you grew coffee, but we weren't in a position to buy coffee directly at that point. We were buying from, is it a cousin or uncle?
It was my cousin.
Yeah, from Roberto, who used to own Los Alto, that you now own.
Right.
So you may remember Los Alto. We've had that coffee before in the past, and we've had some others of Roberto's coffees as well. But we never got around to talking about buying coffee. Yes. And then Cup of Excellence 2007 came along, and I was bidding on an auction lot in the Cup of Excellence. And about half an hour after buying the coffee, I get an email from this guy saying, "Steve, you've just bought our coffee." I knew nothing about this until afterwards. Mm-hmm. It was so spooky. It was like, really? Oh, that's cool. So we bought Limoncillo. It was the Caturra lot.
Yes.
In 2007 from Cup of Excellence. And after that, we desperately wanted to keep buying coffee from you. So our importers, I asked them to speak to you, and we were shipping it via importers for 2 years, which worked well for me because I didn't have to buy directly. Somebody else shipped it, made life a lot easier. And then in 2009, we had a bit of a shock that they weren't going to ship the coffee, and we had some frantic emails backwards and forwards, and you helped us ship the coffee directly, which was fantastic. So we've gone from buying from a Cup of Excellence lot, from buying from an importer, to now working with Irwin directly and buying lots more different coffees from you on the back of that too, which I think is like, it shows that how we've grown, and I'm really, you know, it's a good progression. So tell me a little bit about Limoncillo. So how long has it been in the family, altitude, the different varietals you grow on the farm, things like that?
No, Limoncillo is a very particular, really particular, or different than the rest of the farms that we have, because it goes from 880 meters above sea level, which is very low for coffee, you know, all the way up to 1,300 meters. You know, but
I climbed that mountain too by the time I was visiting there. You
yes.
made us climb up it. This is great.
Oh, you shouldn't have a problem now.
No, but that was Fat Steve back then. Yeah, he wasn't so keen on the exercise.
But no, I mean, it lends itself to do a lot of experiments because it's the terrain of the farm. It's very narrow down at the bottom, and then it opens itself up, you know, like an umbrella.
Yeah.
You know, all the way up to the top. You know, it's crossed by three rivers. You know, so we have a lot of water all over the place. You know,
and you use that water, don't you, with hydroelectricity for the workers on the farm?
Exactly.
You've got 7 waterfalls here.
We have 6 waterfalls. 6 waterfalls. You know, and we tried to maintain them. And this farm is where we learned to harvest water.
Right.
You know, that's what we call it. We're harvesting water. We started protecting the water sources. You know, we started planting a lot of different types of bamboos as well.
Which is unusual for Nicaragua.
Exactly.
I think. You know, like Nicaragua, as a beautiful and amazing country as it is, there's not a particular wealth there to be able to do that with certain parts of the land, is there? You know,
right.
And like Irwin spent a lot of time. Well, the family spent a lot of time like with. I love on Mamma Mina the flowers, like, and they've started to appear in other farms as well, haven't they? But like making the farm not just a producing place, but a nice place to be, but also looking after the environment, which is, you know, it's a responsibility as a custodian of the land to make sure that it continues to produce great coffee. So.
Oh, and also educating, because on our biggest farms we have little communities as well. We have in Limoncillo, we have around 60 families that actually live on the farm. And
you'd be driving through the farm, and all of a sudden you hit what looks like a little village.
Exactly.
And they've got their own shop, and they've got their own little washing facilities, and they've got beautiful houses and school, and it was the first time I think I'd been on a farm where you saw people living on the farms. Because, for instance, Brazil, they used to do that, but now everybody lives in the city.
Right.
Bolivia, the farms are too small. Let's say you'll have one person living there and it'll be their farm, but it's very unique for me seeing the way that the communities live on the farms.
Yes. You know, so we started educating a lot of the people that actually start doing a lot of this work, you know, of harvesting water. They never heard of harvesting water. They thought we were crazy. But it's nothing more amazing than to cut down a bamboo stick, and drill a hole in it, and you see the amount of water this bamboo stick actually holds, at certain times of the year, depending on the way the moon is and everything, So it really helped us convince them, and they actually do a lot of this work for us, after hours, on their own time. We provide them with the amount of, of vegetation, and they actually do all the planning for it. But they actually are enjoying everything. I mean, the benefits from this as well.
I think that's something that you've spent a lot of time on as well on the farm, is the educational side of it, isn't it? It's like providing education, not just for the children of the farm, but for the people who work on the farm as well.
The adults, exactly. Yes. In Nicaragua, at the average education for anybody there, it's 4th grade level.
Right.
So most schools only have up to 4th grade, and that's it.
Right.
Because, the kids, they go out and start working, helping their parents work, pick coffee and, other things. But we have actually started, to encourage them to keep going.
Right.
We actually have like a scholarship program. Since we implemented it in the mid-90s, we've only had 2 people actually go to college.
Right.
But it's there.
But that's 2 people more than would have without. And I know that your sisters are quite heavily involved in that.
My younger sister, yes, she's more involved with the social programs that we have. We have a children's diner that we provide food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the children that actually go to school. So if they don't go to school, we tell them we won't feed them. But I mean, it's food that their parents don't have to spend on. So it's a way to try to encourage actually the parents to send them to school, because obviously if it was up to the kids, I mean, heck, I was a kid. I didn't want to go to school. If it would have been up to me, I would have.
No,
second, 3rd grade. So it's something we want to encourage the parents to do, to push them.
How difficult is it to get teachers to come onto the farm? Because it's not an easy place to get to.
Right. No, it's kind of hard because nobody actually wants to go live there. But I mean, in Nicaragua, in order to graduate from college, you have to do social work. So we get a lot of college people about to graduate, and they get paid by the government, but we also subsidize them. We also give them an extra. It's not a common thing in Nicaragua, but I mean, we figure if they're doing a good job, if they want to stay, we allow them to stay. If it's a teacher, we've had one girl, young lady, who decided to stay in Placeres, and we're paying her a lot more, so because she's been really good at it. But it's an investment.
That's no different to any employee coming into the business. I guess that if they're good, then you have to reward them to hang on to them.
Exactly. No, but I mean, we wanted to change the mindset, because a lot of the people, the kids, you ask them, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're like, okay, I want to be, a tractor driver. I want to be the driver of that tractor. But well, how about being a doctor, man? How about being, we're kind of killing ourselves, because eventually if this works, we're not going to have any workers for the farm. But we want them to have a little bit more ambition and try to be better than what their parents have been. I think that's what we all want. As parents want, for our kids. So we're trying to change that mindset. To make them want to leave the farm. We know that it will be a problem for us in the future, but it will be a nice problem to have.
For sure. If it's successful, that's a problem you don't mind trying to deal with.
Exactly.
Take all those workers from next door in Honduras or Guatemala. So the varietals you have on the farm, you have Caturra, you have Longberry, which we're obviously going to have in here. You've also got Bourbon.
Yes. No, like I was saying, in Limoncillo is the farm that we've done most of our experiments with, since we have different microclimates, different terraces, I call them. Different altitudes, different...
We were talking about this just before we came in and did this, and I never realised about the tablons that you have within the farm and the separate parts within, and that's something I'm kind of going to... I'm sorry, you're going to get lots of emails about it now. But I think it's really exciting because you've got those different altitudes and those... So do you find... I mean, I'm guessing I know the answer to this, but different altitudes and different soils are suiting different varietals, and are you regularly trying different things in those places?
Right, no, definitely. We have seen that, certain varietals outperform others in different microclimates, different altitudes, different soils. I'm definitely one of an opinion that there's no such thing as a bad varietal. You just got to find the proper.
Like I was talking last week about Caturra, and we've had a conversation about Caturra, and Caturra isn't inherently bad. It's just been planted in some places where it really doesn't work.
Exactly.
And then we find a lot, like last week's that was planted at 1,100 metres above sea level, on the Apponeca mountain range, on a bit of soil that actually doesn't produce great coffee because for different reasons it's geothermic hotspots and all these other things. And they planted this varietal, all of a sudden thrived, and it just works there, and it works in the cup. And exactly. I agree, there's no such thing as a bad varietal. And too many people, I've had a bandwagon for years about geisha. Not everybody can plant geisha, and not everybody should plant geisha, and they should really avoid it in many, many ways. You've got to have such an exact set of circumstances.
Exactly.
Do you feel that's the same for this Longbury?
Up to an extent, yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, you got to find the proper microclimate for it.
Yeah.
Just like the geisha, it's more limited. The microclimate for the geisha is very limited.
Very limited.
For the longberry, it's limited as well, even though it's a little bit wider than the geisha. Obviously you have the Caturra. It's much wider for our countries, for Nicaragua and Guatemala as well. The Bourbon, it's much wider, but only for El Salvador. It's not very good for very humid places.
Right.
Even though the cup characteristic is spectacular, but the climate will destroy the plant. Production will be very low.
So what is that window, do you feel, for the Longbury? What kind of, like for instance, the parameters of altitude? Would you say there's some parameters there?
Well, for us, it's worked magnificently at 1,100 meters.
Okay.
1,100 meters has worked out great. It's the cut profile that most of our clients enjoy. Even though we do have it at 1,500, in San Jose, but we haven't been able to find the niche or the amount of the as big as a niche market than we have for the Limoncillo. Although there's other influences you can apply. You can start doing different processes to these that will better the cut profile.
Which we have the, I think we have the natural. We do have the natural for sure. I think we have the pulp natural of the Longbury too. So we have the different processes. For me, I think I really like the washed version. I enjoy the other two, but the reason because I could have chose any one of the three for this one, but I think the washed for me gets me the most excited because it's the most like the geisha in many ways. It's that very clean, transparent, elegant, great word, very tea-like, beautiful cup, which we'll see. We're going to taste it in a little while, and we'll see it then. Are there any other influences on the varietal that you think you need to plant it? Is there anything else that specific, like does it need lots of shade? Does it need lots of water?
Well, no, obviously, it needs the amount of water that almost any other coffee variety will need.
So there's no real differences there.
No. And depending on the altitude, you will need to control the amount of shade that you need as well. Obviously, the shade is mostly to extend the ripening period and get more of a sweetness out of the.
Because 1,100 meters, I'm guessing it gets quite warm.
It does. It does. Even though the microclimate in Limoncillo, is not quite as warm at 1,100 meters. Placeres, it's much higher, but it's a lot warmer.
Right.
But Limoncillo gets nice and cool at night. That kind of compensates.
Is that due to the water sources and the shade that you have there?
I would think so. Yes, yeah. I would think so. Which is different from San Jose. In San Jose, the way the farm is facing, it's facing north. So you have the sun that comes out east to west. You get sunlight easily, 10 hours a day, every single day. Malamina, we're at the same altitude, but because of the cloud cover, if we get 6-7 hours of sun every day, we're lucky. So
when we visited there, it was the cloud. Like we got there about 3:30 in the afternoon, and the cloud was right down, and within half an hour it was pitch black.
Exactly.
Just like that, it was like, wow. And then San Jose, completely the opposite. It was just so bright and clear, and such a great view over the lake as well, isn't it? What was the lake called again?
Lake Apanas.
Yeah, I've still got to buy my island on there. So no, I think it's an absolutely beautiful farm. I love Limoncillo purely for the selfish reasons. I bought it in Cup of Excellence once, and that whole romanticism that goes with that. Exactly. But also, it's the coffee that introduced us to buying from you guys and buying all these other amazing coffees. So it's really cool. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go to the fantastic, the amazing, the awesome map bit.
It's the map bit. No expense spent. It's the map bit. If anybody can come up with a better way of going down to Has-Been Towers, zooming up from Has-Been Towers and going to our left to the wonderful continent of Central America, I am all ears. But while we were there, we should focus on this said continent. Is it a continent? I'm never sure. But anyway, the number of coffee-growing countries is 7. There are a population of 41 million. The surface area, twice the size of the UK and a little bit more. So a smaller population, bigger area, that's why they grow lots of tasty coffee. So let's look down at Nicaragua, an amazing country, the first country I ever visited outside of Europe, and the first coffee growing country I ever visited. So very special place to me. May have said that already in my mug, but let's look at the details of the country. So Nicaragua, population of 5.8 million, size about half the size of the UK, but with a fraction of the population. So again, a lot of land. Capital city is Managua. Interesting fact, Nicaragua is the second poorest country in the northern hemisphere after Haiti. Not many people know that. See, I'm full of interesting facts. So there's the farm Limoncillo. Now you see all of those dots around the farm. There's quite a few. This is where people live. This farm has a lot of workers living on it. The Moresh family are very good at giving great accommodation to their workers, making sure they're looked after, and really, really good people. That's why we love working with them. So Del the cow is here to tell us the farm name is Finca Limoncillo, has an altitude of 1,200 metres above sea level, not so high. Varietal is Caturra, and the nearest town is Matagalpa. Now, that doesn't sound so high, but what I want to do is show you this mountain range where Limoncillo is. So in a minute, if we can just zoom down, you can see this is really on a mountaintop, and the farm goes all the way to the top of the hill there. In fact, let's have a zoom around the edges of the farm with my clever little camera angles here, and you get to see just kind of how high it is compared to the surrounding areas. And let's just zoom back so you can see back to the view we're at. And that was the map bit.
So we are back. We are on the wheel of opportunity. This is a bit of a mentalness, so I'm going to let you do the spinning. Don't spin it too hard though, because it will break. So just give it a spin, and let's see where it lands. So, and we are going to the green storeroom. So I'm going to take it on that one. So the wheel of opportunity is taking us to the green storeroom. Okay, so here we go. We're going to the green storeroom. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
See, Chris is here again. We're going through my office. Oh, you can't see my office. It's very untidy, and also you don't get to see that till the Wheel of Discovery allows you to see it. We're going through the green room. Say hello, Gaz. Say hello, Roland. Okay, we're going backwards. Say a good aim, we're going backwards. Not allowed to see the roastery either until we get to the green. So here we have the green storeroom. So you can see all of our big green bags. All of what we have at the moment. It's looking a little bit bare, there's some gaps there, but that's because Bolivia and Brazil and Colombia are going to be coming really soon. And that was the Wheel of Discovery! So I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll be back with you in just a second with some hot beverages to drink. Okay, so we're back, and we have the return, kind of second return, of Snozzer in the bowl. So, have a sniff of that. Snozzer in the bowl. I don't know if snozzer translates in Texan or Nicaraguan, but sticking the snozzer in the bowl.
Yeah.
Super sweet is the smell I get off there. And kind of a little bit of a zingy acidity as well, which I'm really looking forward to in the espresso because I kind of know this coffee quite well now. I remember the first time you showed me the Longbury, by the way. I forgot about this and think you wouldn't sell me any of that either, because it was, where does it go? I can't remember. Somebody was buying it all, and it was only
in Japan.
Yeah, I think it was like last year was the first year you let me have it. So, he's very mean. He's a very, very mean farmer. Normally they're begging me to buy the coffee, and then I have to beg him to buy the coffee. It's definitely the wrong way round. You want to grab the espresso, and I'm going to start with the espresso. So it's cooled a little bit because I was disorganised, but even now, the dominant part for me in the espresso is the acidity. I get like an apple and a real kind of pear-like acidity in there, but there's this tea-like quality that I just like, kind of like an Earl Greyness to it, which
right.
I really like, and I always see running through these coffees. Well, what do you think?
I'm picking up a little bit of a flower, like a hint of jasmine.
Yeah.
In there, like in the aftertaste.
Yes. Very, very Ethiopian-esque, which is kind of weird because obviously it's Ethiopian roots. But yeah, that's really good. So we'll move on to the cappuccinos, made for us by Chris. I make no drinks. I roast no coffee. I make no drinks because these are much better than the ones I can make. Now I have an aversion to milk. I'm not a massive cappuccino latte type fan, but I kind of like milk. For me, kills the delicacy of this drink because it is super delicate. Like again, the tea lightness that I keep going back to, but that tea lightness gets muted by the milk, and there's a little bit of coffee, but I can't really give you any more descriptors than that. Sorry.
You're right. I agree.
Yeah. It's not the best place for it with milk. I think something like the Pacamara Naturals are super interesting in the in milk. They really work well through there, those powerful flavours, but this is just too delicate for that. So grab the mug. These are our new In My Mug mugs, now available on the shop. These are brand new. These arrived yesterday afternoon, so they really are new. So this is a new logo we've had done. Episode 250, because it was like quarter of 1,000 that we decided to go for the new branding. Now here, I think this changes again here, and this turns much more to what I get in the cupping bowl of the apples. There's a real like red and green apple kind of texture and acidity going on, and much sweeter than the espresso, and the acidity actually mutes down a bit, and that tea-like stuff disappears a little bit.
Yes.
It's just much like the thicker, and I think I find with lots of your coffees is that texture plays a big part. I don't know why, and I'm guessing this is a processing thing, but there's a lovely texture to it, but the apple and that pear acidity again just comes through, and it's super sweet.
For me, it's the elegance.
Yeah.
You know, the elegance of this coffee really, for me, comes through more in a filter.
Yeah. Now this is much more the cupping bowl for me than the espresso and the milk, and I definitely prefer this coffee in the brewed. I love the espresso because that tea light, but I love that this is just a little bit sweeter for me, and a little bit kind of more like the cupping bowl. With the washing of this one, how do you wash on it? Because we say washed coffee, and washed coffee can mean many things to many different people. Do you do a dry ferment? Do you do an underwater ferment? How is this processed?
No, for us in Nicaragua, we tried doing a water fermentation, but it just it takes too long. You know, when we have the temperature drops too much at night, you know, that we have to do a dry fermentation. You know, so we process without water. You know, so we don't even use water to push the coffee through.
Oh wow!
You know, so when it gets to the fermentation tank.
So what do you push it with, like a rake or something?
No, when it goes through the machines,
Yeah.
it's with a the screw.
Oh yeah. So like it's like a worm type drive thing
Exactly.
where the beans like move. So the fermentation tanks are very close to the pulper, I guess.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes they
Okay.
are.
Okay.
They're only 2 meters away, more or less.
Right.
So they get there, they fall into this big old pile, and what we do is we put a guy down at the bottom. He spreads everything out evenly, so the fermentation's even all the way through.
Yeah.
And we don't try. I mean, we try to keep if we have too much coffee, we use 2 fermentation tanks. We don't try to. We try to keep it the thickness of it to be about a meter.
Okay.
So otherwise, if we do like 2 meters, we haven't tested this yet. And I bought like a thermometer that will read every so often. In the height. Down at the bottom will be a lot more fermented than will be up on top.
Got you.
So in order to keep uniformity, we try to do about 1 meter more or less. And then after that, after depending on the temperature and humidity, but let's say anywhere between 18 to 30 hours, then we use water to push the coffee out and start washing the coffee.
Wow. So no water's used in that initial part, apart from the juice and the mucilage from.
Exactly.
So that leads me to the next bit. Kind of your coffees tend to be very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's because a lot of that mucilage is, it's hanging around a bit longer than if you're using fermentation tanks, because that's going to break it down a lot quicker, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, that could be one of the reasons. I would tend to say that the main reason is the way we harvest the coffee. We actually do pick the way the Salvadorians do. Not red, but it's in Nicaragua they call it blood red.
Yes.
Which is that.
It's almost
burgundy.
purple, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like and almost ready to fall off the tree as well, isn't it? It's
Exactly.
a very dangerous way of picking too.
It is, and we've had some problems where we get a heavy rain and wind, and it will knock the cherry off a tree.
Yeah.
But we have to have enough people to go in there, to really stick them in there and pick coffee. Sometimes we have way too many people, so we have, instead of paying them by volume, we just pay them by the day.
Right.
That way they don't work quite as hard, and they only pick the really ripe cherries, not the green. So.
Yeah. I think there's definitely something in that. We buy from 5 of the 6. Is it 6 farms you have in Nicaragua?
Yes.
Yeah, we buy from 4 of the farms. From the 6 you have in Nicaragua, and we only don't buy from one of them because I've never seen anything from it, and the other one, which is the bigger one, the ranch one, and the other one, we just thought having 3 farms called San Jose maybe a little bit too much. But there's. Each one is processed really well and picked really well, and not just fanboying because you're here, because I am a fanboy, of course. That your coffees just tend to, that you can tell there's that extra element of care and the little, what's the word I'm looking for? The little intricacies are kind of followed through, and we're a big fan, as you know. Listen, thank you very much for joining me. I've beasted this man on video today. I feel really bad. No, I don't feel bad. I've got no conscience. No, thank you for joining me, mate. And do remember, I have to say this at the end of every one, life is too short for bad coffee.
It is.